Hey there, guys. Video Sock here. I had been meaning to make this video for a long time, actually, but I just never had the time for it. And so I've had to kind of push some other things out of the way today just to make this video for you guys. And I'll try to get right to it. So, over the past couple or so years, there have been many on my channel claiming that TPE feels better than, silicone does. And in the past, I have kind of tried to explain, how silicone feels in compared to TPE, and that it just kind of really just depends on what you want. And personally, I actually don't even think that a lot of these guys have actually ever touched a woman in their entire life. I'm not saying all of them haven't. I'm saying there are a lot that probably haven't. There's a difference. But of course, that's not really me criticizing, although I will maybe probably try to call out some guys who probably have never touched a woman in their life and are just acting like they are and so on. But first, we need to examine, how does a human being actually feel? How smooth does their skin actually feel? How soft is their skin to the touch? How soft is their body when you push it in? Is there a lot of give? Is there not so much give when you push into their bodies? Well, kind of like I've said in the past, that just depends on the person. Not one person is going to feel the same. Not exactly any way. And so you could say that engaging in intercourse with these love dolls, sex dolls, whatever you want to call them, feels like sex or something like sex, but it doesn't exactly feel the same as it does with another person. For instance, so there's a lot of female love doll owners here. So let's talk about the woman first, of course. Now, for women, have you ever felt a woman's skin before? Geez, if let's say you rub against her skin like this, you don't push in at all, really. You just feel against her skin like that. I have felt a woman's skin feel so silky smooth that it's more smooth than silk. It's just baby butt smooth, just smooth as heck. Sometimes with women, just very, very smooth and soft skin. And even with silicone, they have not been able to replicate that kind of smoothness. Not even close. With either TPE or silicone, they've managed to get closer with silicone to have that kind of smoothness when you feel it like that, when you're doing it by the touch like that. But it's still not anywhere close. Nor is it as detailed, but they are at least getting there. And the reason why they're able to put more detail into silicone is because not only is the surface of it a bit harder and more durable, it is also because the surface is more smooth, actually, than TPE is. Because TPE is more porous than silicone. And so that's why when you graze your finger or hand like this on love doll material, TPE material, it's not going to feel as smooth as silicone. So at least as far as trying to be smoother, they have at least gone closer with silicone. So now let's talk about, catch your live is easily destroyed. Oh, that's too bad. But moving on from that. And so let's talk about feeling by pressure. So let's say you take the material and you squeeze it like this. You press into it. Well, the TPE material is a bit softer on that end. When you press into it, it's a bit softer. But in order for them to do that, they've had to make the material kind of more porous, which means it has more holes in it so that when you press into that material, it feels softer. And if they didn't make it more porous in the first place, it actually would have felt even harder than silicone. So they had to do that. But it's like I said before, it they miss out on the silky smooth touch. And so, of course, when you're pressing into it, when you're grabbing into it, it feels soft when you're squeezing it, but it's not as soft by the touch as like silicone. But it's kind of like I've stated before, some people are going to feel, more tough than others. Some people are going to feel more rigid. They aren't going to feel as smooth. They're going to be more rough around the edges. And, of course, more men are going to be, on average, more rough on around the edges than women are. But the thing about men, though, is that, and this is why it's so difficult for love doll makers to replicate men, is because there's actually a lot more detail on men than there is on women, at least for the kinds of love dolls that they make anyway. For instance, it's very hard for them to make beards like this. Even like this is very hard for them to make. And they typically will have to have a person put in each and every hair into the face just to have a beard on that love doll for the male dolls. It is very hard for them. And so they've also got to account for, how does this area feel on a male? How does this area feel on a male? How does this area feel on a male? How does the skin feel on the male right here? How does it feel right here? And so you see, it is just a lot harder for them to make a male love doll because of those reasons. And not only that, but with the average male having bigger muscle than the females do, you've also got to account for the fact that, I would say the weight of the doll, because you don't want the male love doll to look too strong. And so that's also going to have a lot of weight too, whether it's TPE or silicone, etc. And so, especially with TPE, they're going to have a very tough time making the male love dolls with TPE, especially. They are not going to get any or hardly any of these details right with TPE. They can only maybe get close with silicone, but even then, it would have to probably be like a solid silicone just to get these love dolls to actually look like male, men in real life. It would have to be solid silicone, not the softer silicone that they use for the love dolls currently. And so, again, it just kind of depends on what you want, but there are still, of course, a lot of love doll companies that are having issues with making these male love dolls, but they are at least getting better at it. And with that being said, I will just end this video, and I hope that you guys have learned something from it. And if you, for any reason you prefer TPE, fine. But I'm just going to be frank with you. It actually, in my opinion, felt a little bit more realistic with the real doll and silicone. At least when silicone is done right, of course, it feels more realistic with silicone. And I'll just end the video here, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.